In this podcast episode, Ben Shapiro critically examines recent claims by Tucker Carlson about being under CIA surveillance, dissecting the political and factual context behind these allegations. Shapiro also explores ongoing Middle Eastern conflicts, particularly U.S. Iran tensions, the state of the Strait of Hormuz, and the broader geopolitical implications involving China and American energy dominance. Additionally, he comments on cultural events like the Oscars, political nature, ongoing tax debates in U.S. states, and the shifting landscape of international alliances and internal unrest in communist regimes. Ben Shapiro begins by discussing Tucker Carlson's claim that the CIA is preparing a criminal referral against him based on conversations with Iranian contacts, possibly under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Shapiro stresses that, aside from Carlson's own statement, there is no official confirmation from U.S. intelligence agencies. He points out Carlson's history of unfounded accusations, such as earlier claims about NSA surveillance meant to silence him, which were denied by the agencies involved. Shapiro notes that incidental surveillance is plausible if Carlson's communications appeared during intelligence monitoring of foreign individuals, but that this does not imply direct targeting or guilt. Shapiro clarifies legal protections surrounding conversations with foreign actors, emphasizing that merely talking to foreign officials is not a crime unless conducted under foreign control or direction, as defined under FARA. He calls into question Carlson's suggestion that the Trump CIA is surveilling him despite Carlson's supposed allegiance to Trump. Shapiro finds this contradictory and suggests Carlson's narrative serves more as a victimhood performance designed to elicit sympathy within his political base. Expanding on Carlson's purported victimhood, Shapiro critiques what he terms the grievance party culture, where artificial victimhood is a common political tool. He highlights Carlson's privileged background and wealth, contrasting it with his self-portrayal as an oppressed figure. This, Shapiro argues, is a tactic to solidify his standing with audiences who valorize perceived persecution. He also mentions related figures like Candace Owens and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who echo similar narratives about threats against Carlson being politically motivated to prevent a possible presidential run. Shapiro entertains two main possibilities. Carlson could be lying to deflect imminent revelations regarding his communications, or he might genuinely be included in incidental intelligence gathering without any wrongdoing. Shapiro leans toward skepticism, suggesting Carlson's move resembles a public relations preemptive strike designed to control potential negative fallout. The discussion shifts to recent misinformation surrounding a terrorist attack on a Michigan synagogue. Shapiro critiques left-wing media outlets and Iranian-aligned propaganda pushing false narratives, framing the attack as Israeli-instigated retaliation. He clarifies that the attacker's family connections to terrorist groups were omitted or downplayed, exposing a pattern of distorted reporting around Middle Eastern violence. Shapiro addresses tweets from Iranian officials alleging conspiracy theories about the U.S. framing Iran for future terrorist incidents, which he describes as part of Tehran's strategy to manipulate international and American discourse. He underscores how some U.S. media and political factions inadvertently amplify these narratives, reinforcing Iran's propaganda. Turning to military developments, Shapiro praises U.S. strikes targeting Iranian military assets on Kar Island while leaving oil infrastructure intact, framing this as strategic pressure weakening the Iranian regime. He discusses the importance of controlling critical areas like the Strait of Hormuz and expresses confidence in American military superiority despite Iranian provocations. The Strait of Hormuz receives particular focus as a narrow maritime choke point crucial for global oil transit, especially for China's energy needs. Shapiro explains Iranian attempts to disrupt shipping with mines and missile attacks and highlights U.S. efforts under Trump to secure international cooperation for protecting the waterway. He criticizes European reluctance and reliance on green energy solutions amid the crisis, dubbing it impractical in light of immediate security threats. Shapiro details Trump's broader energy dominance agenda, noting significant U.S. partnerships with Indo-Pacific allies aimed at reducing their dependence on hostile regimes for energy. He asserts that Trump's military assertiveness, combined with energy deals is reshaping global geopolitics and unsettling America's adversaries, particularly China and Iran. Back home, Shapiro comments on tax policies, emphasizing Democratic efforts to raise taxes in states like New York, contrasted with Republican-led pushes for tax reductions elsewhere. He criticizes plans that would significantly increase estate taxes, arguing this fuels wealth flight and hampers economic vitality. Shapiro briefly critiques the political tone of the recent Oscars ceremony, describing it as a left-wing agitprop event filled with virtue signaling and lacking genuine artistic merit. He mocks figures like Conan O'Brien for stale political jokes and highlights an author's misplaced call for Hollywood to engage in geopolitical activism as an example of moral overreach. The podcast touches on rumors about the Iranian supreme leader's health and personal life, including speculation about impotence and sexuality. While recognizing the humor in such claims, Shapiro suggests they symbolize broader vulnerabilities within the Iranian leadership and potential openings for political change. Shapiro shows video evidence of growing protests in Cuba, linking the unrest to tight U.S. sanctions on Venezuelan oil that sustain the communist regime. He frames this as an example of American pressure successfully destabilizing hostile governments and contrasts it with weak European stances on Middle Eastern security. Highlighting Pentagon moves, Shapiro discusses the deployment of Marines and warships, possibly preparing for a U.S. seizure of Carr Island to further secure the Strait of Hormuz. He reads Trump's recent statements as signaling readiness to escalate pressure until Iran's disruptive capabilities are fully neutralized. Finally, Shapiro mentions the son of the late Shah, Reza Pahlavi, who promotes reform agendas aimed at freeing Iran's economy from military control and reconnecting the country to the global market. Shapiro cautions patience regarding regime change timelines while acknowledging the historic potential for transformative shifts.